Way Forward. I'm Neal, your host, and I'm so glad to have you here today for episode number 2. And this is live TV after all. And what a special treat. As I mentioned to you on Tuesday, I'm so blessed and grateful to have the person who named all this for me with us here today. And it's gonna take me some time to introduce him because he's a dear, dear friend, soul brother. And David G, if you can believe it, it's nearly 25 years now, or excuse me, but I knew it's 21 years. So we met in August of 2004, and you've been a
You were
blessing in
three.
my
You
life.
were 3 years old.
I was, and you were 8. So, David G, if you don't
You were
know,
three,
is a
and I was 10.
world-renowned meditation instructor and teacher. And what I love about him the most is his impact on us humans, and through just who he is and how he shows up, and through his meditation offerings, it's not rigid. So if you haven't seen him, or this is the first time you're exposed to him, you've got to check him out at David G. David, welcome again. It's so great to have you.
It's my honor to be here with you, Neil.
Yeah, I
And
feel that.
congratulations on the launch of The Way Forward.
Thank you. Thank you. So just kind of picking up from last week, this is, I want to pull the room forward. On Tuesday, some of you named what you are struggling to escape. Sarah shared with us through the loss that she experienced, just a deep, deep regret and having a difficult time letting that go. And Larry was vulnerable enough to share that men aren't allowed to grieve. And we want to pull the room forward to where we're headed this week. And that is to, understand the transformation that we're really actually talking about, and that it is possible to transform pain into purpose. And I want to be really clear. During the course of this conversation, we're going to be sharing some things that have happened. But I want to make abundantly clear what's so powerful about this room is that this isn't something that's complete for me. This is an ongoing process. We talked about the both and on Tuesday, carrying grief and pain forward while also being able to access and experience great levels of joy, connection, and intimacy. So please remember that this is something that we're all experiencing together. I'm just sharing with you some experiences that I have that I hope will shed some light on things for you. So, David, I'd be so grateful if you could take us back to those weeks, those 9 weeks when Aunt was hospitalized, and you and your wife Roseanne were, by our side day and night. And what did you see in me, and what did you see in me and Samara that led you to eventually reach out to me about this concept of post-traumatic growth?
Well, I think post-traumatic growth was really something that happened over time. That conversation.
Yes, it was. It was
You had,
months after, to be clear.
yeah. I mean, you had texted me, uh, right. You know, that next day, after, realistically, after probably the most tragic moment of your entire life.
Yes.
And, upon receiving that text, that was just boom. I had to connect. So, that was really just sort of us just holding each other. That happened before I saw anything. I saw a dear friend in pain, and someone whose life I was a part of, and really all I wanted to do was really hold you. But as those days continued, as we moved through that process, really what I saw was, I was able to see beyond the agony of the moment, and I was able to see or at least recognize in some way the deeper forces that were moving beneath it, and I was able to see the love. I was able to see the devastation for both of you. But really, my connection really was with you. We had a tight thread there. And I also began to see, and it's because I've known you and I love you, but I was able to see the qualities within you that were not necessarily overt, but that were going to help you stand again. Get back up, and like I saw, like, all right, Neal has been rocked. His world has been rocked, but I see something amorphous. Couldn't put a name to it at that point. It was just seeing it. That I knew you would be able to get back up. And I wasn't thinking like, oh, there'll be a rebirth, or there'll be a reinvention, or there'll be, an aha moment, or there'll be a spontaneous healing. I could just see there's something inside of you that is bubbling right now. And one day, I don't know, 2 years, 2 weeks, whatever, it was going to allow you to move from this agony to a much higher place, higher vibration. And it was only then that we were able to really, name what that was. Because, in the first waves of this, it's too vast, it's too untenable, it's too disorienting, it's too impossible to even to place any words upon it. It's just all visceral at that point. And, but we know that language can give shape to an experience like that. And naming doesn't diminish the grief, once we're able to name it. But it offers the mind, and it offers the heart a way to begin to relate to what is happening. And that next step is to then nurture it. And that's really where, because really all I want to do is just hold you while you had experienced life.
And let's stay there for a moment, because oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's so funny. We're on live TV, so it's so good.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's live.
I love it.
Well, I was going to say that, growth after trauma isn't a switch. Anyone who has experienced any type of trauma, it's not a switch that suddenly turns on. It needs to be tended. It needs, breath by breath, meditation by meditation. You're also a meditator. You and Samara, meditators, day by day, conversation by conversation. Yeah. We nurture it through presence, and we nurture it through a spiritual practice, and compassionate witnessing. Yeah. And a gradual rebuilding of trust in life. That's really what I wanted to share there.
There's two things. One I remember so vividly, and then the other I was just reminded of. And see, it's so meaningful, because when when Ant was in that shape, and the shock of what we had just experienced, him taking his own life, dying by suicide, and being revived, all we were focused on was his survival. And we were just laid out and incapacitated, and being able to receive that physical hug and love from you. I remember it like so vividly, like I could just barely stand, like melting into your arms. And this this is what I would share is so important, and I hope people take from this is that it's it's that letting go, it's that letting another love you, hold you, that love of community when you just can't stand on your own. The unimaginable is happening, and your body is in fight or flight, and you don't know what to do. And I was just reminded when you said the word trust, like I'm like I can't catch my breath. I can't breathe. There's no way I'm going to be able to meditate for 25 minutes. I can't even get grounded. And you gave me something that was so powerful and so helpful. And I forgot about it until this moment. That's why I'm feeling emotional about it. It was so simple. Just on the inhale, I, and on the exhale, trust. And it was looking at Anthony and just, I did that for hours and hours and hours and days and days. That's all I could do. So thank you for reminding me of that, and also sharing this with our audience, because whether it's something you're facing yourself, it literally, in recovery, they talk about 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time. And in the depths of trauma, it's literally one breath at a time.
Yeah, yeah. Even to the point of one inhale at a time to even get to the exhale. And this is a really important component, because you and the people that you work with, through the work, through the service that you do, overriding what I was able to witness was this immense current of love that had suddenly lost. Right, I'm big into energy. Einstein said it. I didn't invent it. Energy's real. Um, but but uh, but this current of love that I had witnessed in you and Samara, for 20 years, had suddenly lost its familiar form of expression. Right? For years, 17 years, that love had moved in a very, very predictable or familiar form. I don't want to say predictable, but familiar form, toward Anthony, from you and Samara toward Anthony, through conversation, through concern, through protection, through fatherhood, parenting, shared memories, whatever those were, hopes for the future. This is all that current of love, and all those thousands of visible and invisible ways that a parent loves a child. And then in one moment, the physical recipient of that love was gone, but the love remained. And so when the love can no longer travel that familiar path that it has always known, it gets trapped. It's trapped inside the body. It becomes pressure in the chest. It becomes a vice in your throat. It's disbelief. It's anger. It's restlessness. It's all those Kubler-Ross type of processes that you go through. It's yearning. It's exhaustion. It's relentless waves of pain. It's waking up and then realizing it wasn't a dream. It's praying that it was a dream. It just can't find that familiar doorway. And part of grief is when we can slowly, takes time, and it's different for everybody, create new pathways through which that love that had suddenly then gotten so bottled up, right? It was so consistent for 17 years. That's a lot of conditioning there, and then suddenly finding new ways for it to move. And that's through remembrance. That's through ritual. That's through perhaps protecting others. It may move through, just speaking Anthony's name, just saying Ant or seeing an ant. suddenly it starts to move and mobilize, and it can even happen with someone else, maybe something that you say or do or move towards to help them from not feeling so alone. So really during our, all of our early conversations, and it's, I don't want to say it's a blur now, or it's a fusion of so much, but
It is.
I could feel the force of your love.
Mm.
I could feel, I could feel the intensity of your love, and I could also feel how disorienting it was for you to carry that much love without knowing where to place it.
Mm. So
And so
powerful.
really my
I mean,
role as a friend was was just to, you know, help you hold it until you could breathe again. that was that was it. And
I
then really our conversations turned into something bigger, like, oh, um, I think we both sensed at some point, because you were very, very clear on what your vision was or mission was, but that this love, newly directed, not that it wasn't always going to shower Anthony simultaneously, but that had the potential to uh, become deeply useful in the world.
Oh, thank you. There's a few things I want to unpack there. First of all, sir, if I did too, is like, you got that call the next day, and you also got the call the morning of when Samara and I were blessed that Anthony was coming, and we were headed to the very same hospital. So you've been with us now, pre-Anthony and post-Anthony, and I just something
And
you
it's been my
said.
honor
Yeah,
every step of that.
thank you. I feel that. Something that I've been struggling with, trying to figure out how to articulate to an individual who's going through these challenges, because I feel really, really fortunate. Not only did you show up, but so did countless others. And you participated and led a few of these all faiths welcome prayer circles. And that was like an individual's hug or love multiplied thousandfold. And I shared this Tuesday, but I think it's worth sharing again, that when people come together in prayer, whatever your lens is, religion, non-religion, it was so powerful. You were on those calls. I'm curious about your experience on those calls, but what Samara and I and our family and Anthony felt was, while each person shared through the lens of their religion or their beliefs, the receipt was pure love and light. And I think about those moments often, because I feel in some ways it's not imposter syndrome, because this is lived experience, but I don't yet have found the words to speak to people who are experiencing traumatic loss or who have been suffering for some time, who may not have had or have the access to the abundance of community and love that Samar and I have. And I'm curious if you could expand upon what you were sharing when you said, as a friend, the first things that I want to do was just hold you in love. And I was like, that's it. If we can help one individual to show up as a friend for someone who's suffering, or for someone who may not have friends or the community that we have, to reach out for that kind of love, that's the piece that I'm just being transparent about, that I struggle with. The lived experience is real. I just feel like Samara and I had a very special experience through the breadth of love and people. I'm curious if you have any thoughts or advice around how we might help someone who may not have that.
Right. Well, not everyone has a support system when tragedy strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And, if we would just define trauma, and there's many, many, many definitions, but the definition that speaks to me is when your worldview gets turned upside down. When everything you think, you're on this planet and you have a certain assumption of how this existence goes and how it unfolds, and then a moment occurs and it gets turned on its head, and it's incomprehensible. Something happens in your brain. Your brain actually snaps because it's like, wait, every single thing I know to be true is no longer true. How do I do I go back to day one and learn everything about being on this planet? What happens in that moment? And so it's very, very, I think the word I used before was disorienting and certainly
Yes.
jarring.
It's a great word, both.
But I think an important component of this is not everyone has that support system. And, as difficult as it was for you to reach out to me to share what had happened, it seemed like obvious to me. Well, here's what I need to do. I just need to, to do, well, essentially to do whatever I can. But not everyone has connections like that. And I think that it's incumbent upon people who observe or witness someone else's trauma or tragedy, or however we want to, speak about that.
There was just some buzzing in the background. Go ahead.
Irvin needs to mute.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to mute himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because not everyone has that support system, because not everyone is connected, I think it's so critical that when we witness this happening, and maybe the person isn't capable of reaching out to you to tell you that they're in pain or that they need help or need support. You didn't say, I need help. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was just like, you need to eat. Let me pick up food and just be with you. And so I think if we could all just know inside of us that everyone out there is potentially hurting, and perhaps when it's obvious, even just saying, hey, can I come over and cook you a meal? Can I come over and bring you something? Can I come over and give you a hug? Hey, would you like to talk? The answer isn't, hey, if you need me, give me a ring, because that's what most people do.
Yeah.
When they
I'm here
see-
for you.
Right. But if you don't show up, then
Or if you don't know what you need because your life has been blown to bits like you've shared.
right, exactly. So I think that's like a really core aspect that it's not comfortable for anyone. It's a very uncomfortable, unfamiliar situation. So you have to, step through your discomfort zone and do whatever. And this is an important component because I think this is really where the way forward really, speaks to it, and your journey to this is that the wound is the way, and the path is, this critical aspect of serving someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way. It takes time to get there. It's taken you time to get there. But we talked about it early on. You were feeling it inside of you, and maybe I helped set the table because there were so many people on those prayer circles, and and that was multidimensional, multi-faith. One day it was Jesus, one day it was Buddha, one day it was the universe, one day it was my people. Like it didn't matter. We were all there, and we were being entrained by whoever was leading that process. That day, that given that given day. And I
Yeah.
think that was, you know, really the beauty of it. I don't think anyone said, "Oh, well, I'm not as religious or as that," or "That's not my faith," or "I'm more religious than this." Everyone was like, "We are here to create the container. We just
Yeah.
want to hold the Tricarico family in our arms." And that was driven by you. That was driven by you and Samara. Yes, people might have volunteered, but you showed up for the healing, and even Samara held Anthony's hand, through many of those, and it was on camera. Maybe we just saw, you know, uh, that they're holding hands. So I think that if everyone can realize, you know what, life is messy, and any way that we can help heal or serve another person using whatever we have inside of us, we should do that.
Hmm.
Certainly when a crisis hits.
Hmm.
You don't have to do it every single day. Some people do it every single day. Um, but, and I think really the way forward is your way of translating that love into service for others.
I think so. I think so, and that gives me even more certain because I'm certain about this way forward, and you've helped me unlock and navigate a few things here. And I just wanted to share everything that David G is sharing about me, and Samara and me is sitting within you now. It's you just haven't had anyone say it to you yet, and so we're saying it to you here now. The wound is the way. It was something that David G shared with me early on, and it really opened up stuff for me that I'm going to get into in a moment here. But the community that we're creating here inside this live interactive opportunity twice a week and through the Endurant Way is this safe place where we're going, or where we're creating that community, because there's something powerful. I mean, yes, they came because they knew Samar and me, but by a certain point, there were many people we didn't even know. But there's something about that love coming together and galvanizing in a way that transcends dogma and strong religious beliefs to just pure love and connection. And I remember now, and I'm being reminded of it, you know, that all of our dreams, all of our hopes, life as we expected it, um, was blown to bits that day. And I shared Tuesday, we didn't survive this. I think it's a myth when someone says you're a suicide survivor, or you're a cancer survivor, you're someone who's left behind from someone who's lost. For us, we died that day too, and the wound became the way, and it's taken some time. I mean, it is actually over 2 years now, and David G brought this up to me, a little over a year ago, and it took some time. But one thing you shared with me, and I want to get the words right because I was going back over that conversation. You said, "What?" And so this is sort of after, we've been home for some months, and this is when you reached out and you named this for me, and you shared what you were seeing in me, and you said, what you're sharing is away from being tortured by it to being fueled by it. You said your pain becomes your purpose, and I'm just. You said that was one of my superpowers, and I'm curious what you were actually seeing, because I wasn't seeing it then. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a. I wholeheartedly believe this. I wasn't blowing smoke, you know, to this concept. I truly believe um, that each of us has something along those lines that is a superpower. When I use the word superpower, I wasn't romanticizing your pain.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was recognizing that that there are human capacities or abilities that were being forged inside the pain. You know, if you think of like a blacksmith and they've got the fire going on and they're, you know, they're forging the steel, you know, in that, that's what I felt in in that flame, in that crucible. There was something being created. And it's not the tragedy itself that's the superpower. It's the quality that's awakened or strengthened or revealed through the
Hmm.
way we meet the tragedy.
Hmm.
And I saw several of those qualities begin to emerge uh, in you. I can talk about that. You know, I wasn't taking notes at the time, but that period of time was so crystallized for me, you know, as well. Um, I would say one of those was the power to recognize invisible pain. Right? Once you've lived inside profound grief, you can develop a sensitivity to what other people are carrying.
Mm.
You know, you hear beneath the words. You
Yes.
know, you recognize the smile that's working too hard. You know,
Hmm.
I'm not a fan of veneer and I'm not a fan of stoicism.
Hmm. Me
You
too.
know, it's because it's just putting like a little bit of a wall between you and the rest of the world. But you could, well, I can feel the difference between someone who wants advice and someone who simply wants someone um, to to sit beside them.
Mm.
You know, there's very different. You know, um, and I sense this inside of you as well. And this sensitivity can be a very profound form of service because even remember in the hospital you were connecting to other parents whose kids were also in critical care units, and you weren't like, oh, my stuff is the only thing. You know, you were engaging them and you were giving them hope and you were giving them support. And you know, I think you bonded. I don't know those relationships, but just
Yeah.
what I was able to witness, you know, in that period of time, you know, I was able to see that and I was like, that's a superpower. That's a superpower because, you know, you should be, you know, just concerned about your own little bubble, but you know, there's I saw something really, you know, cultivating. You also expressed a certain ability to stay present with discomfort, and I think this is because you are a meditator, and it's not like you just started meditating. You know, you've been a meditator since we know each other. You know,
Yes. 21
you've
years
been
now.
you and Samara. It's a meditating household. You know, I
Yeah.
think I joked with you the other day that you have spent more time meditating in parking lots at Dave Matthews concerts than most people have meditated anywhere in their entire lives.
I think you might be right. 40 shows deep.
So, you know, I think most people are uneasy in the presence of grief. You know, we're all trying to massage it or explain it or fix it or soften it or go, hey, how about those Mets? You know, something
Hmm.
along those lines to just
Distract. Yes.
right, right, distracted, pattern interrupt, something along those lines. Anything more comfortable, and but you know, another component that I saw within inside of you was a person who was learning, hadn't learned it, but was learning um, to sit inside their own heartbreak.
Mm.
And that any person who is learning that or is even just experiencing that or cultivating that can develop this capacity to
Hmm.
be present while someone else is hurting as well. And that presence is rare, but in the right hands, it's healing,
Mm.
you know? And I think that, you know, another superpower that I felt bubbling inside of you was the power of discernment, right? Because trauma, it has this magical way of stripping life down to the core essence, to the essentials. And then, you start discovering which relationships can hold truth, and you start to recognize who can, you know, sit beside you without without needing you to fix anything else. And I think, this is classic PTG stuff, but you become clearer about what matters, and you were becoming so crystallized about what matters, where your energy, belonged. We would have conversations, and you'd be talking about your daughter, you'd be talking about, your wife, you'd be talking, about your parents. I mean, it was a very, very, you were very selfless, in a certain way. You're oblivious to it because you weren't saying, I think I'll be selfless here, but I was able to see that. And, there's another component of this. And again, this is growth after trauma. But I saw you developing new neural pathways about what life can be, what it really is. And there was sort of like an unfolding of this, I don't want to say new person you were becoming, but evolved, or there was an evolution that was going on. And I think, really, you know this, I'm sure you've heard it from a lot of people. I'm not the first to talk about it, but you already have this native ability to speak, to connect, to explain things, to lead. You just have that, and those abilities existed long before this loss. But what I was able to witness here as a superpower was that I could see your lived experience was deepening those natural or innate gifts. So, because suddenly, rather than you like transmitting a factoid or information, suddenly you were carrying experience, even in a sigh, even in a breath, even in a single word. There was vulnerability, there was experience. You and I would just like sit on the phone, just having these conversations, really, that were just
Okay. Go ahead, DG. Yeah.
that
The
was
producer was just letting me know about some technical stuff, but I think we're good now.
okay. Great.
Yeah.
I don't know who can hear that. He was in my ears too.
Oh,
so.
just me and you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this was a really, this was a very, very powerful thing for me to witness. Because suddenly you were carrying the authority of someone who had been altered by life. And, suddenly you were starting to speak from that place of the shift. Right? And that creates the multiplier effect. Right? When someone has the ability to communicate and an experience that can serve others, that's when the healing properties that are working on you suddenly start to bubble up, and they can travel far beyond you. And I just saw that. This is where the pain into value happened, because you were a committed student on the path of recovery or healing or whatever that journey was. You were diligent. You were examining your own reactions. You were really, what I saw was a was a heightened awareness in so many aspects of your life, whether beyond um, just like the grief of the moment, but physically, emotionally, spiritually. Um, you were bean by bean starting to create a structure around something that was structureless. And we talked about so many times about next steps, and I wasn't pushing you towards next steps, but I was just holding that space. And you were like, I think there's an opportunity for me to share what I'm going through with other people.
Hmm.
I mean, you were deep in the throes of agony,
Yeah.
and yet you were thinking this, and I remember thinking, um, there will come a time when he will take this, with everything he's ingesting right now, and you were talking to a lot of people in that process. I was only just one facet of this, this jewel. Um, but I was like, he's gonna take this and make it useful. And I think that's really where the pain to purpose comes, because it wasn't like, oh, and here's the mechanism, and here's the path, and here's the first presentation, here's the deck. It wasn't like that
Mm-mm.
at all. I was thinking, he will help another father breathe through the most painful 5 minutes of their life. He will help another family regulate their nervous system, right? He can help offer this language because it's intuitive and he's has this communication. He can, offer that language to someone else almost as a gift, even when they can't even figure out or explain or certainly not articulate what's happening inside of them. So I really saw there's like Neal can help people move from isolation to connection. And so
Mm.
that's sort of kind of what I meant, by superpower. I believe that pain opened a depth within you, and your responsibility, should you accept this mission, would be to decide how that depth could serve.
Mm.
And this is available to all of us.
It, it is, and that's where I'd like to pick up. This is available to all of us. Of the superpowers that DG mentioned, the only one that feels innate to me potentially is the speaking and leadership, because I've been training with that for 21 years under the initial mentorship and leadership of David G, which I'm super grateful for. But this idea of isolation to connection, I really want to hit home, because it's not a superpower that Neal possesses, because that's what David G is calling me, but that we all possess, and the opportunity exists within inside us. I want to share very vulnerably uh, that I did not feel like giving or connecting with people, other parents, other families whose children were, who their lives were on the line, at the hospital, even though that's the type of person I am. My mindset was so closed and focused. And it was only until on the same day, a couple people suggested to me, which I shared on Tuesday, if we can open our hearts and if we can open our eyes, angels exist all around us. And so what happened, and I remember it vividly, is I think, because we spent a lot of time together at Ronald McDonald House, you and me and Samara and Roseanne, across the street from Rady Children's, and as dear friend and father Memo was there. But I remember prior to this awakening of this superpower, that I would see my parents. My parents were there every day, and I would see them talking to this family. And I just confide transparently here, I was somewhat shocked, like they could be talking to other people. This was life and death, but that's my dad, especially. That's my parents. But I'm in crisis here. I'm focused on Anthony. So I want to be abundantly clear. Like, that was not my initial thinking. But when the suggestion was made to open my heart and open my eyes, that there are angels all around, and when this father extended a hand to me on the day we got, some pretty significantly bad news about Anthony's situation, and he tapped me on the shoulder and was just there for me, I knew what was being shared with me. And I felt that connection immediately. And instead of isolating, instead of following that, what felt like an instinct to just pull it in, protect, focus on the only, it opened up something in me where I felt this heart connection with this other father. It created some capacity to understand what he was going through with his son and what his family was going through. And it opened up indescribable amounts of love and connection. And that's the moment that I'm really trying to get at, David G., is I see so often that the line between suffering and incapacitation and pain to purpose is such a thin line. I talk about this often when Samar and I used to go to support groups. It was so challenging because the suffering was so strong. So we could all empathize about the loss and what it means to lose a child and how the uncle doesn't understand or this person doesn't understand. And we never left feeling better. And I felt even more isolated. And that's why this has become my purpose, because that moment could have been missed. And instead of living what's left in my life and adding purpose and connection to others, I could easily be on that path. And so I really thank you for sharing about these superpowers. That one is, and you said it as well, it's available to all of us. And it seems so unfathomable to use the word should, like you should be focused on this, you should, but it's breaking through that should and allowing that connection that creates so much more. And then it's a ripple effect of superpowers, because then the next one to come was this deep feeling and understanding of pain and loss that we all go through. We were in that ICU at Rady's Children, and many of those families got to take their children home, and many didn't. And to watch them experience that was heartbreaking, and it's created in something in me a real compassion and a real understanding. I thought I was caring before. I thought I cared about people and I understood loss and trauma, but I've come to understand a whole new world. Everybody has something, even losing a child the way we did to suicide. I won't share, but I've come to know stories that seem far more impossible and unbearable. But these superpowers are available in a couple ways, and they're both centered around the heart, opening that heart so that the possibility for the love that exists, both seen and unseen, can come in and those connections can be made. And then as we're kind of winding down here, I want to circle back to something David G. said about the beginning about, grief is being love that has no place to go. And, you hear that all the time, and it's in some part true. But what I really feel and believe, well, my call to something greater felt very clear. My wife and I, Samar and I, don't want any other family to go through what we've gone through, any family or child of high-functioning autism to be another stat for lives lost through suicide. So that calling felt very clear. But I also feel very clear that that love that has no place to go letting it not find a place to go is what creates the suffering. But we as parents, that capacity, that love for a child, or we as adults, we as anyone who has a loss and has experienced love, we can go place that love. And it's through connecting with another. I wasn't like saying to myself, oh, I should pay Memo more attention because he's struggling too. It's just something that unlocked naturally. And it's so fascinating that the wound is the way, and that we all have this opportunity. And I would hypothesize that it doesn't even require a traumatic loss to unlock those gifts. I don't really know where I'm going with that, David G., but I want folks to hopefully understand and connect with it. It's not some situation like, well, this guy had this in him to do this. But believe you me, like, I wanted to stay in the corner in the fetal position. I wanted to tell no one. I didn't want to interact with anybody. It was unbearable, but something unlocked.
Yeah. Listen, a person's superpower may be compassion. It may be discernment. It may be courage. It may be your ability to listen. It may be a deep reverence for life. It may be your willingness to enter a room that others are afraid to enter. Trauma doesn't automatically create these capacities, as you said. But when we can consciously meet what has happened, these qualities can begin emerging from the fire. And it's different for everybody. It's different. Grief has no timeline. It's really, really organic, and it's very, very personal. But in this context, everyone has the ability to move from this state of frozen from PTS to thinking maybe there is a moment in life that won't be agonizing. Because when you're in the throes of it, it's eternal. Whatever you're feeling, it's eternal. And there's no moment where you're suddenly like, oh, yes, well, in time, this will, But, you and I talked about there's going to be one day where you wake up and, suddenly it's 7 a.m. and you're like, oh, wow, I wasn't in agony for the first hour I was awake. It's just so powerful for that to happen.
And I think this is a really a powerful opportunity to bring in. So when David G. says PTS, that's post-traumatic stress, and post-traumatic stress left uncared for can wind up as post-traumatic stress disorder, something that we know and understand about our veterans. And when David G. introduced the concept of post-traumatic growth to me, I'd never heard of it before. But it's this alchemy of transmuting your pain into purpose. And it's kind of fascinating that we wound up having this interview today. We were going to have it last week, but today is really meaningful and special to me in a couple different ways. Number one, it's the 1-year anniversary of my father's passing, and I'm so grateful to be doing this with you today. And it's also the 1-year anniversary of my interview with the co-pioneer of post-traumatic growth, Dr. Richard Tedeschi, and he shared something that struck me very personally after the interview. He looked me in the eye and said, Neal, you have to keep going. You have to do this. You're built for this. You're built to take post-traumatic growth and expand it out from just veterans to human beings. And please promise me you'll do that. And it was really important that I had that interview that day. I made a commitment to my dad on his deathbed that I would keep that interview, despite my wanting desperately to cancel it and be with my father. And lo and behold, I got to have it. And he transitioned later. But it reminded me of what he said. It's, I don't know, I definitely, there are days that I wake up and I feel lighter. I don't feel the weight. But he said something that really struck me, and it's in line with all that you've shared with us too. But it's really, people ask me all the time, like, well, how do you find your purpose? And my belief is, because I'm early in this as well, it's not something that you think about. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's all that love that David G was talking about that has no place to go, is going and placing it with loved ones, paying it forward. Speak to so many parents who have lost. But what Dr. Richard Tedeschi shared with me is when your purpose becomes greater than your pain, you're compelled to take action. And that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what gets me out of bed. Not every day. I still have those days that I wake up and I don't want to get out of bed, but it's this idea that we're being called to something greater through our loss, through our grief. And if we can open our hearts, not our minds, and be thinking about it, opening the hearts for the possibility for that purpose to present itself and place that love that's bottled up inside of us, we can find that purpose that's going to compel us into action. And ultimately, that action is serving and helping others. There's nothing that I've done, no disrespect to Kubler-Ross's steps, they're all true and they all happen ongoing. But there's no, I shared about this on Tuesday, for me, closure is a lie, that we're going to complete some 5-step process and be complete with grief. And that's what's kept me stuck. But the possibility to carry this pain in greater service of purpose, help one other human being, help one other family, create hopefully a community where people can feel that love that my family felt, so that they can find that seed, that moment to open their hearts, to let that light and love come in, to unlock those superpowers to, as David G put it so eloquently, to transform from isolation to love and connection. So I'm so grateful to have you, David G. I feel like we could just keep going. Is there anything else on your mind or you want to share? Selfishly, I'd be grateful to put you on the spot. Is there something you might be able to offer to the audience? I think I'm reminded of the I trust, inhale, exhale, and deep, deep trauma when you're literally one breath. It's breath to breath, but anything you might have in mind that could help someone that's struggling with today?
Yeah, absolutely. The sun is peering in, so maybe lighting me up here. Yeah, there's a very, very powerful breathing technique. It's very, very easy. Anyone can do it. You should do it while you're sitting down, though, and just in case you get lightheaded. But one of the most valuable and important things that we could do, there's actually this thing resting on our heart. It's called the sinoatrial node. It's actually our heart's pacemaker. And our vagus nerve, when we do certain types of breathing, sends a message to our brain, which then sends a message to the sinoatrial node. Either you're safe and you could slow down the pace of your heart, or it's a little dangerous out there. You need to be elevating the heart rate. So this technique, guaranteed to drop your pulse, move you through stress, move you through anxiety. And I do it probably 10 times a day over the course of the day. I call it filler up, tap it off. And essentially we take through our nose, we fill our lungs about 3/4 with a deep breath. And then instead of exhaling, We fill our lungs again even more till we're overflowing. That's the top it off part. And then we, through our mouth, we exhale with an audible sigh. So it looks like this. So if we could do that 3 times, you keep this one in your back pocket, it's going to help just settle you down, because when you're in the throes of anxiety or stress or panic or trauma, like whatever it is, you need some kind of pattern interrupt to cut through all of that. And so this is going to help us do that. All right. So ready, Neil?
I am. Let's do 3 of them together. Take us through.
Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Fill her up. Top it off. Perfect. Let's do that one more time. Fill her up. Top it off. And then one more time. Fill her up. Top it off. Gets easier the third time. So a technique like that is just so powerful. Just one of those things that right now your pulse is lowering, Neal. Everyone
Yeah.
who's watching right now, everything's slowing down a little bit. So you have that in your back pocket. Fill her up, top it off, and just it'll allow you to move to the next moment. None of this stuff is going to solve or heal you spontaneously. It's all going to help you keep on the journey.
So powerful. And what you said is it'll get easier, because when I did the first one, I thought I was at 3/4 and there was like nothing left. So I got like a little bit more. Then I'm like, and then like the next few got easier, and I feel lighter. So
Yeah,
what a
great.
tremendous gift. Thank you for leaving that with us. And I know that David G doesn't want me to plug anything, but you got to check this guy out. davidji.com. And he could get woo-woo with the best of you, but what I love about it is fill her up, top it off, and sigh. So he has transformed more lives than any meditation guru that I know, because he could speak to those of us that don't need all that could resonate with that. So hopefully these 2 practices, that one that he reminded me of in deep, deep trauma, when you're not going to be able to fill her up, top it off, it's just enough to keep breathing. The inhale, I, exhale, trust, and this fill her up, top it off. And then I just can't leave this moment without acknowledging how the sun is shining on you in this way. It takes me back to the candlelight vigil at Moonlight Beach that was spun up by Anthony's friends that you led May 25th, 2 years ago. It was cloudy, overcast that day. And when it had come to the point where you had asked Samara and I to talk, how just like right now, what was dark became bright light on all 3 of us. So I feel Anthony's presence here. I feel my dad's presence here. And brother, I can't thank you enough. You are a blessing in my life. And thank you for helping me help others. I want people to find this, to be able to unlock these superpowers and understand that, well, maybe the life that they expected, thought, hoped, planned for won't come to be the way that they thought, hoped, expected, planned for, that their destiny is still being written. And by just taking it one breath at a time, opening your heart, opening your eyes, letting the love of another in, and unlocking these new superpowers that are available to you, when you do, your destiny is still available for you. And I just can't thank you enough, brother. I look forward to putting my arms around you real soon.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Big shout out to Vince. Big shout out to Ant. And thank you so much for allowing me to be, a part of this movement. I'm so grateful for you, Neal.
Thank you. All right, as we came to know the other day when we sat in awkward silence, it is I who actually have to end the live, so I'm going to walk away from the camera and do that now. And if I lose you, David G, I'll circle up with you. Thank you so much. Love you, brother. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern for the next episode of The Way Forward Live. Appreciate you all being here. Take care.